All right, young scholars. Apologies for the delay. I was making sure we have all of the groups that have been set up on Blackboard. So thus far, Naya, Faith, Shane, Nick, Monet, Calvin, Caitlin, Dan, and Tariq do not have groups. So try to get, I guess that's 9 people. Try to get 3 groups set up of you guys by the end of the week. Otherwise, we have a group of Jadir, Viswal, another group of Giovanni, Samuel, and Jordan, Jaylene, Lauren, and Thomas, Dwayne, Michael, and Brittany, Maria, and Lean, and who's the last group? Robert, Curtis, and Megan. So if I made a mistake there, also reach out to me and let me know. Okay. So today what we are doing is this little practice workbook here. So as you all remember, back in 2020, there was COVID. So we had to improvise with all of our worksheets, information. So this was technically the midterm exam during the COVID year for the Excel type classes. I figured for you guys, it would be a great review to see what you've learned over the last 2 months. So if you go ahead and click the 3 and download original file, you should get a workbook that opens like this with multiple worksheets here at the bottom that we'll go through to review these different concepts. And then on Wednesday, we're going to do Goal Seek, which you'll notice there's nothing to download here. That's because the Goal Seek is Excel Homework 6. So we're going to click that, download the file from there, and go through it together. You follow along, and you've done Excel Homework 6. And then it'll be the same thing for next week as well. We'll do an in-class exercise together. And then we are going to, on Wednesday, do homework 7, which is pivot tables. And then the following week on the 4th, we'll do the midterm review. And then the 6th will be the midterm. And I'll explain all that week. All right. So are there any questions on any of that?
No, sir.
Okay, excellent. All right, so first, open the basic calculations worksheet in the practice file here. You'll notice that we're asked to calculate the min, max, and average in question number 1. So our min formula is just equals min, open parentheses. We select and highlight our range of cells, which is L1 colon L8. So our minimum is 0 because the 0 here, the lowest number. Then for max, we do the same thing. Equals max, open parentheses, L1 colon L8. And the highest number should be 22. So when we hit enter, that's what we get. And then we do the same thing for average. Equals average.
It's 13.875, right?
13.875. Yep. So of those 1, 2, 3, 8 numbers added up, divided by 8, it's 13.87. Now for question 2, we're told you make 58,000 this year, and next year you make 90,000. What is your raise?
Percent of the raise.
So we did this with the first inventory back on, I think, the 5th. So we take the 90,000 minus 58,000, which should give us 32,000 divided by 58,000. New minus old divided by old. And we get 55.17%. Pretty big raise. And then for question number 3, we're asked to write an absolute cell reference for cell L8. So we do equals L8, and we put the $ before our column and the $ before our row. So again, the absolute cell reference means no matter what we put in that cell, this does not change because it's always referring back to that cell. So this could be 12, this could be 88, 94, whatever it may be. It'll always be pulled into this cell now because it's an absolute. So when we hit enter, we end up with the 12 from L8.
Basic calculations.
How did I get the raise again? We take the new number, the 90,000, minus the old number, the 58,000, and then divide it by the old number, the 58,000. So new salary minus old salary divided by old salary. Just like you see up in the formula bar there. Any other questions on this one? You're very welcome, Naya. No? All right, then we are going to, can you go over the absolute reference again? Yes, Calvin. So all we do for the absolute cell reference is we do equals and then select our cell that we're referencing, in this case, L8, and then you just put $ before the column and $ before the row. And all that does is no matter what I put in L8, it's always going to show up there. So right now I have 12. I could put 88, 94, whatever, and it will always show up here because I have it set up as an absolute. That's why on the homeworks, we've done those assumptions where because you had it set as an absolute, you just changed the numbers from the in class to the homework and did not really have to play around with many of the formulas. No problem, Kel. All right. Any other questions? Then we're going to move on to the if, or, and ifs worksheet, where we're going to talk about if function, or function, and function, and ifs functions. So if I wanted to create a formula which checks to see if cell J2 is greater than cell K2, that's just a simple if function. So we do equals if J2 greater than K2. And I could simply close it out because by default, it's either going to be true or false. What did I do wrong here? I stand corrected. In previous versions, you could just click enter there, and it would either say true or false. In this updated version, I guess 2024, it now requires you to have the true or false as well. So because 52 is greater than 19, it outputs the true value. So for number 2 now, it says create a formula which checks whether cell J2 is greater than 22 or less than 59. So we need to use an if with an or inside of it because of that or in the sentence. So we do equals if, open parentheses, or, open parentheses, J2 greater than 22, comma, J2 less than 59. Because that's what our sentence is asking for. Is J2 greater than 22 or less than 59? So then we close out our or function, comma, true, comma, false, close parentheses to close out our if function. So anytime you see a sentence like this with the word or inside of it, it's probably going to be an if or. And when we hit enter, we get true because 52 is greater than 22, and it's also less than 59. But because the first condition is true, it's automatically true. Because or is one or the other true? Now with questions 3 and 4, it says and, so both conditions have to be met. So if, open parentheses, and J2 and cell K2 are greater than 59. So we do J2 greater than 59, comma, K2 greater than 59. Close parentheses, comma, true, comma, false, close parentheses for the if statement. And that should return a false, because neither of these, the 52 and the 19, are greater than 59. So when we hit enter, that's what we get. Now for number 4, we do the same thing. However, instead of returning true or false, we're told if true, return 59, and if false, return 0. So we do the same thing to start. If and J2 greater than 59, comma, K2 greater than 59, close parentheses. Then we do comma, and instead of true, 59, comma, instead of false, 0. That's exactly what we're asked to do here. So because it's false, it's going to spit out a 0 instead of the word false. Now for number 5, we're asked to create an ifs function to check all of the above possibilities, which requires us to put the previous 4 together. So I'll walk you through that. Equals ifs. Our first test from number 1 was j greater than k2, comma, or j2 greater than 22, comma, j2 less than 59, number 2. Then another comma, and j2 greater than 59, comma, j2 greater than 59 from number 3, close parentheses. Another comma, and j2 greater than 59, comma, j2 greater than 59, close parentheses, comma, 59, comma, 0. So see what we did there? We literally just combined all of these 4 to check every one of these conditions. And we're going to return 59 if true and 0 if false. And it spits out true because at least one of those conditions has been met. And lastly, we're asked to create a formula to determine how many instances there are of results equaling 22. So that is the same count if formula that we used previously. So for our range, we select from our first yellow box down to our last yellow box, comma, our criteria is 22. So do any of them spit out 22? Nope. So we hit enter, our count if is 0. So are there any of those that you guys need me to repeat?
Could you repeat number 5?
Which one?
I say the fifth one.
Okay. That is the most difficult one, so that makes sense. So we're setting up an ifs function where we've combined all of the previous 4 statements. So for number 1, it was J2 greater than K2. So we have that one first. Then it's comma or J2 greater than 22, comma, J2 less than 59, which is what we did for number 2. Then comma and J2 greater than 59, comma, K2 greater than 59, which is what we did here in number 3. Then the last part, comma, and J2 greater than 59, comma, J2 greater than 59, comma, 59, comma, 0 is what we did in number 4. So we're just combining all of them within that ifs formula. To check which one is which.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
For the one that you just did, can't we just put equals ifs and then highlight 1 through 4, or it's not going to work the same?
If we were to do equals ifs and just highlight each of these, it might give us an error, a logical error. So let's copy this and put it off into another cell for the moment. And we'll try exactly that recommendation. I'm pretty sure it's going to give us a logical error because they're not full formulas. Okay, it worked. It did not give us a logical error. So it imported the functions from those 4 and gave us the same answer. So yes, we could do that if you so choose. Are there any other questions on this worksheet?
Wait, could I see the second one? The
Second one? Yes.
Yeah.
So that one is the if or J2 is greater than 22 or less than 59. So J2 greater than 22, comma, J2 less than 50.
The last one, please.
So the last one is just a count if, where we highlight our range, first yellow through last yellow, comma 22. We're checking to see how many instances there are of 22. And since we have true, true, false, 0, and true, there's no instances of 22.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? All right. If not, we'll move on to the present value and payment worksheet, where you're provided an interest rate of 6%, a number of payments of 12, and a present value of $1,000. Or actually a payment of 1,000. We're going to calculate our present value right now for the first question. So given the information provided in cells L1, M1, and N1, calculate your present value. So equals PV, open parentheses. We're first asked for the interest rate. So we click cell L2 for our 6% interest, comma. Then we're asked for our number of pay periods. We click M2, which is our 12 pays, and then comma. Within the present value function, we're asked for our payment that we're going to make each month. Instead of, as you've seen in the payment function, the last parameter is the present value. So before we do the payment function, we have to find our present value. So we click N2 for our payment, and we close out the parentheses. So our present value for that information is negative $8,383.84. So then we're asked to calculate our payment. So we do equals PMP, open parentheses, again, our 6%, comma, again, our number of pay periods, comma, and now with the payment function, we're asked for the present value. So that is from B3. And it gives us 1,000, which is our payment that we make each of these pay periods. So that's the connection between present value and payment. Usually, within your present value function, the payment you make is going to match the payment. So see how the last parameter switched? For present value, it was payments. And then for payments, it was present value as the last parameter. So are there any questions on those two? If there's a present or future value question on the midterm, I'll walk you guys through it. So there's no questions on that?
So the present value is the whole money you pay back.
Yep.
Okay.
So basically, if you were to take out a 1,000 or a loan at 6% and pay it off in 12 months and make $1,000 payments per month, it would cost you basically 8,000, a little over 8,000 in today's money. So you would think, you're basically at this point spending 12,000 because you're paying 12 times at 1,000.
Yeah.
But that would be the future money. The 8,000 is what it would be right now. So that's why people will pay off their mortgages quicker, pay off car loans quicker, because the longer it goes into the future, the more money you're going to have to pay towards it. And that's like you saw with the mortgage calculator we did last week, where if you basically pay off the standard rate over 30 years, the house is going to cost you almost 3 times what it's worth.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other questions on these two? The next worksheet, strings, should be pretty fresh in your mind since you guys just did that the last 2 weeks. So we have this statement here in cell J2. Marino makes learning Excel so much fun. Some of you may agree, some of you may not, but that's okay. So we're going to use the right, left, mid, and concatenate functions here to set up our answer for number 5. So in question 1, we're asked to create a function to extract the word fun from the text in cell J2. So fun is all the way here on the right. So we're going to do equals right, open parentheses, select cell J2, comma, and we want the number of characters. Now, even though the word fund only has 3 characters in it, since we're going to add all these words together in problem number 5 here, we're going to do 4 characters in order to keep that space in front of fun, so that when we add all of these together, there'll be spaces in between each of the words. So the 4 represents space, fun. So space, and then F, and then U, and then N. So when you click enter, you see there's a little space before the word fun. That's because we did 4 characters. If we just did 3, well, we combine all these words together in problem 5, there would be no spaces in between the words. It would be just one word all jammed together. So that is the right function. Then for number 2, we're asked to create a function to extract the word Marino from the text in cell J2. So because I am all the way on the left, we use the left function. Open parentheses, select J2, comma, 7. So again, I use 7 instead of 6 in order to keep that space, so that when we combine all of these in problem 5, there are spaces between each of the words. So when you hit enter here, you may not be able to see the little space after the O, but it's there. And when we add all of these 4 words together in problem 5, you'll see. And I'll even show you the difference between how it looks if I were to change the formulas to not have spaces. So for number 3 and 4, we're going to have to use the mid function, everybody's favorite. So number 3 says create a function or formula to extract the word makes from the text in J2. So because it's in the middle there, we use the mid function, where our first parameter is the same J2, where we're taking the text out. Then our next parameter is where we're starting. So if Marino and the space was 7, that means that makes starts at character number 8. And then even though makes only has 5 letters in it, we do 6 to give us the space afterward. And when we hit enter, we have makes, and even though you can't see it, the space after. And then for number 4, create a function to extract the word learning from the text in cell J2. So again, that's in the middle. So we use the mid function, select cell J2, and the start is 14. Remember, we started this one with 8, and the word makes and the space was 6. So 6 plus 8 is 14, and then comma 9. Even though the word learning is only 8 letters, again, we want the space. So when we hit enter, we have the word learning and then a space. So then number 5 says create a function which combines your answers for questions in order of 2, 3, 4, and 1. So we do equals. We select B6 for 2. We do shift 7 to get the ampersand. Then B9 for question 3. And the ampersand again. B12 for 4. Then the ampersand again. And then B3 for 1. And when we hit enter, We just get, I make learning fun. If we were to do it without the spaces, we would do equals right J2 comma 3 equals left J2 comma 6 equals mid J2 comma 8 comma 5 equals mid J2 comma 14 comma 8 and then I would do C6 and C9 and C12 and C3. And you notice that it's all just jammed together without the spaces. So that's why even though learning is 8 letters, we do 9. Even though makes is 5 letters, we do 6, etc., etc. This way it's not a completely garbled mess like it is in the second example there. So is there any questions on that? No? Okay, good. So now the last 2 worksheets are to review VLOOKUP. So first we have VLOOKUP exact. In this instance, we have a restaurant, the cost of the cheeseburgers, number of cheeseburgers, task, and total cost. So we're asked to create the VLOOKUP formulas to find the total cost for our purchase at all of the 5 burger joints. So Burger King, White Castle, McDonald's, Wendy's, Checkers. So we do equals VLOOKUP, open parentheses, our lookup value. So we select D4, we're looking up Burger King here, comma, our table array. So we highlight A6 through E10, our entire table minus the headers. And we make that an absolute so we can autofill through. So $sign before the column, $sign before the row. And then comma, the third parameter is always how many of the columns do we have to use? So since we're being asked to find the total cost, we have to use all 5 columns. Restaurant, cheeseburger cost, number of cheeseburgers, task, and total cost, because total cost is in the last column. If we were just being asked for tax, we would just use 4 columns. If we were just being asked for cheeseburger cost, we would just use 2 columns. But since we're being asked for total cost, we use all 5. And then comma 0, because it's an exact match. And when we hit enter, it should give us $4.28. And if it does, we put the formula in correctly. And then because we did our assumptions or absolute cell references for the table array, if we click back in and auto fill across, we should have the correct answers for all of the others. So White Castle, $31.78. Yep. McDonald's, $8.52. Yep. Wendy's, $10.70. Yep. Checkers, $67.41. Yep. And that's because the first parameter is changed because it matches vertically. The second parameter is an absolute. So it does not change. It remains the same for all of them when we autofill the cross. And the 5 columns and the 0 are constants, so they don't change when we autofill across as well. So what the 0 tells us is that it's exact, that we stop as soon as we find the information. So are there any questions on the VLOOKUP? Again, on the midterm review and the midterm itself, you'll pretty much know when you're going to need to use VLOOKUP nearest or exact, because exact is going to have exact pieces of information, and nearest is going to give you like a range of information, as you'll see when we go through the worksheet in a couple seconds. So are there any questions on this?
So it just looked up the total cost.
Yep. And that's what the
Okay.
5 for the 5 columns is. So if I just wanted the cheeseburger cost, I would do VLOOKUP colon, or open parentheses rather, select the lookup value, D14, select the table array, A6 through E10, make it an absolute. And then if I just wanted the cheeseburger cost, I would do comma 2, comma 0 instead of 5. And when I hit enter, it should give me $2. And it gives me 2 because I have that formatted as a general number. So if I click the number pane there and made it in a currency, it would give me $2. And then if I auto-filled that through, it would give me all the cheeseburger costs for the others too. So 99 cents White Castle, $1.99 McDonald's, $1 Wednesdays, $3.50 Checkers. So that third parameter is whatever column you need the information from. So it'd be a waste of time to do 4 columns because the tax is all the same for them, right? So we might want to know the cheeseburger cost and the total cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so are there any other questions on VLOOKUP exact? All right, then we'll move on to our last worksheet today, which is VLOOKUP nearest. So here we have a range of tacos, basically 0 through 11, 12 through 23, 24 through 43, and 48 through 99. Then we have the unit price and the total price. So we're asked to create VLOOKUP formula to determine our nearest match on the price of tacos. So you'll recall from when we did this a couple weeks ago, nearest match isn't exactly nearest match. Basically, it defers back to the previous. So even though 18 is closer to 24 than 12, and 42 is closer to 48 than 24, it always defers back to the bottom of the range. Which is why people tend to want to use exact match rather than these zeros. However, most of our formula remains the same. We do VLOOKUP, open parentheses, select our lookup value, comma. We select our entire table except the headers. We make it an absolute. So $sign before the column and the row for both of them. Now, since we're only asked for the price of tacos, we simply do the unit price. So that's 2 columns. We don't need the total cost. So that's out. We just need tacos and unit price. And then comma, since this is a nearest match, the last parameter is 1 instead of 0. Nearest, it's always 1. Exact, it's always 0. Because the 0 basically tells us to stop as soon as you find it. The 1 tells us to keep going until you find it. When we hit enter, we get $1 because the 3 defers back to the 0 to give us our unit price of 1. And we click in and auto fill through. 18 defers back to 12. 98 defers back to 48. 42 defers back to 24. 169 defers back to 100. And 280 defers back to 100. And that's how you get those results. So are there any questions on the nearest match? Again, the 2 is because we just need the unit price. The third parameter is always how many columns you need to use. So since we're just asked for the price of the tacos, that's the unit price. We don't need the total. So it's just 2 columns instead of 3. Whereas with the exact, we needed all of the columns because we were asked for the total cost. So do we need to review that one? No? All right. So again, on Wednesday, we're going to go through homework 6, which is just the goal seek. And otherwise, make sure that what I have here for your groups is what you want. And these 9 individuals, go ahead and try to set up a group by the end of the week if you can. Again, I have 6 groups set up, I think. Jadir and Viswal, Giovanni, Samuel and Jordan, Jaylene, Lauren, and Thomas, Dwayne, Michael, and Brittany, Maria and Leon, Robert, Curtis, and Megan. That's based on what I've received in the emails and what I saw in the chat last week. So hopefully those are correct. If not, let me know. But otherwise, if there are no questions, I will see everybody on Wednesday and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, have a good day, sir.
Super. Thank you.